Suno AI in the future of music creation and consumption. Today I'm going to be reacting to a documentary by Neely, a music composer and bassist based out of NYC. My name is Desmond A. I'm a producer and engineer based out of Atlanta. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my perspective on this documentary. You can walk away with double the value. Without further ado, let's get into it.
This is Mikey Schulman, CEO of the generative AI music company Suno. Suno is worth $2.5 billion, largely because investors believe in Mikey's vision for the future of the music industry. He wants to model it after the video game industry.
I think that the music industry is way smaller than it needs to be.
What if the music industry can be as big as the gaming industry?
The gaming industry is 50 times bigger than the music industry. And it's because gaming is super active.
If you make music interactive and you make music engaging, people will pay for it like they pay for video games.
Look at the video game industry. These are rich and engaging experiences that people have. And music today is mostly just listened to. Too much music is just passive consumption.
Now, in contrast to the passive consumption of audio recordings, Mikey's vision is to take generative AI and use it to sell the idea of making music as a consumer product unto itself.
Now, just to jump in right here really quickly, when I hear that, I think of things like sports betting, prize picks, things like that, making things addictive where you constantly want to search for something so you can get that dopamine hit. You know, honestly, I feel like music gives me enough dopamine enough. So I can only imagine how to make music even more addictive than it already is. I'm interested to see what exactly that means. So let's go ahead and get back into the video.
We are best known for giving everybody the ability to create. The thing that is new here is certainly creation.
We have opened up a new method of interaction, which is creation.
He pitches this idea to the many investors that he talks to on podcasts by using this analogy of a video game.
It's a little bit like a video game.
Why should it resemble a video game?
In some sense, music is a game. It is interactive, it is engaging, it is fun by yourself, but it's more fun with your friends. To me, it seems like just crazy that music should not be as engaging as Fortnite.
Now, in order to make music as engaging as Fortnite, Suno lets users create songs in a bunch of different ways. You can prompt the model through text, kind of like ChatGPT, but you can also sing melodies into the app, and then it will generate music and chord progressions that go with your melodies. You can also upload demos, and then the app will realize a fully produced track around your demo. Suno does not think of these as professional workflows, but rather consumer experiences.
We are in the business of selling pleasurable musical experiences to people. Super engaging digital experiences around music. The new experiences that were never possible before.
So many more experiences are possible. Engaging, meaningful experiences.
Way more valuable and fun experiences. Start to see a lot more around meaningful consumption experiences.
Meaningful consumption experiences might mean making music with other people, what Mikey calls multiplayer mode.
The most fun experiences will involve 2 or more people.
For lack of a better word, multiplayer.
For lack of a better word, everything multiplayer. Multiplayer. People basically hacking multiplayer mode.
Now, Mikey is a businessman, and he wants to find ways of monetizing these meaningful experiences.
I'm curious to figure out what he means by that. You know, a thing that I've been thinking of as I've been experimenting with Suno is like, where is this going? What's the end game? You know, what is this going to mean for artists and producers and songwriters and things of that nature? You know, where are we going to be needed in the chain of command? Where are we headed with this? It's cool to tinker around, make cool little sounds with your voice and make music and be blown away and use it as a toy. But when it comes to, you know, business and power and wealth, where are we going with this? And I think Adam is going to touch on this soon. Looks like we're headed down that way. So let's go ahead and get back into the video.
Now, Mikey is a businessman, and he wants to find ways of monetizing these meaningful experiences. One option that he pitches to investors is to focus on superfans.
If you read the earnings calls from the major rights holders, there's a lot of talk of super fans. The next wave of monetization is going to come from increased interactions between fans and their favorite artists. So we did this contest with Timbaland where fans could remix one of his songs. And to me, this is like an incredible part of the future of music. I will feel like I am co-creating with that artist. It is quite obvious to me that people will want to pay a lot of money for that.
These are what the video game industry might call whales, people willing to spend a lot of money on microtransactions because of a hyperfixation on the game.
How do we get super fandom to be a daily activity? It will be more valuable to them, and they will want to do more of it, and they will want to pay more for these experiences.
Should be willing to pay more for it. You know, if you want to just be cold and hard and calculating about it, the amount that you are willing to pay for something is a measure of its value.
Just in terms of the number of dollars or the amount of time people are spending doing music, both of those are going to go up dramatically. And this is something that we should lean into. And so, like, there should be 1 billion people doing this. I think
a billion.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And Mikey has big visions for this product. He wants billions of people to use it.
We can get 1 billion people much more engaged with music than they are now.
If we can bring those joys to 1 billion people, then we will have created a lot of value for them. We will have upvalued music for everybody on the planet.
1 billion people way more into music than they were before. That's got to be good for music.
I challenge somebody to explain to me how 1 billion people way more into music than they could have been is somehow bad for artists.
I think I know where he's going with this. It sounds like the vision for Suno is to get it to the point where we have more people adopting the platform itself and envisioning themselves as master musicians, master keyboardists, master drummers, master vocalists, and songwriters. And maybe at each point in the process, there's going to be some type of billing, just like, you know, video games. If you want to unlock this part or get this type of gear, you can purchase it. And there's a bunch of little upsells in the process. So that's interesting to think about. And it kind of makes me question, like, how are people going to perceive the mastery of an instrument in real life? Will that actually go up? Will, you know, those people who play the piano at nice hotels or restaurants, will people actually be more enamored by them? Will they be more interested in the fact that they know how to play a real instrument, and then the lay person is just at home messing around with different tools and games and just kind of pretending to be that, pretending to be a master musician? So that's kind of what I'm getting so far. So I definitely think there's going to be a split in the game. There's going to be more people who are able to create very good sounding pieces of music, but the actual live performance side, that sounds like that's going to be much more valuable. To see another human really playing the guitar well, that could definitely skyrocket. So all my independent musician friends out there, you guys, hey, you know, make sure you guys are out there playing. You know, those little small bars might have to start really breaking the bank on you, because that's where it looks like it's going. But let's go ahead and get back into the video.
Challenge accepted. In this video, I'm going to painstakingly argue what should be obvious by vibes alone. And that is, all of this is bad. Commercial generative AI is bad in ways which are different from other disruptive music technologies of the past, like MIDI sequencing and samplers, because there is a socio-political agenda behind its adoption. This agenda will be bad for musicians, it will be bad for music lovers, and it will leave us feeling more alienated and alone. I should emphasize the fact that I don't have any beef with the technology of generative AI. I think people can do some really amazing things with it. I also don't think that people who use Suno are bad people. I think, you know, there can be great joy with the technology. I, for one, sometimes enjoy a good meaningful consumption experience.
Meaningful consumption experiences.
In fact, I'm kind of uninterested in the general culture war of pro-AI or anti-AI. Like any culture war, it's a distraction from the real war. The class war. You see, there's a class of techno-capitalists who are currently using generative AI as a means of wealth extraction. They do this by circumventing intellectual property laws.
Yeah, we know that there are some copyrighted works in our training data.
And then sell you back the gamified experience of making music.
It's a little bit like a video game.
I'd like to make it very clear that I think this is wrong, this is bad, and the future of music is in bad hands. So say it with me, everybody. AI music bad. So on social media, I asked 3 questions of people who used Suno. This was not a particularly scientific survey, but I did get a couple hundred people responding, and I thought the responses were very interesting. The first question was, what have generative AI tools like Suno empowered you to do that you cannot do with digital audio workstations or traditional musical instruments? The second question was, do you feel like you have a unique voice with your music when you create songs with Suno? And the third question was, who are some of your favorite AI musicians who have influenced you? What about them inspires you? I worded these questions in a way that I hope showed how Suno was being used in the real world by real people. And I think the results are pretty interesting. For example, the most common answer to the first question about, like, what does Suno let you do differently from other workflows, was by a large margin, it saves me. So on social media, I asked 3 questions of people who used Suno. This was not a particularly scientific survey, but I did get a couple hundred people responding, and I thought the responses were very interesting. The first question was, what have generative AI tools like Suno empowered you to do that you cannot do with digital audio workstations or traditional musical instruments? The second question was, do you feel like you have a unique voice with your music when you create songs with Suno? And the third question was, who are some of your favorite AI musicians who have influenced you? What about them inspires you? I worded these questions in a way that I hope showed how Suno was being used in the real world by real people. And I think the results are pretty interesting. For example, the most common answer to the first question about what does Suno let you do differently from other workflows was by a large margin, it saves me time.
It speeds things up. Speed and getting ideas out. Speed. It's so much faster if I just want to meme at my friends. It's faster than digging for loops or samples. Rapid iteration for sure.
Move fast, break things is the Silicon Valley slogan, and this technology lets you iterate on ideas very quickly, which is why Mark Cuban and other tech billionaires can't see why people don't love AI and the arts. After all, it allows for much faster iteration.
When you make it easier for people to conceptualize things, they can go through concepts more quickly, they can iterate more quickly. This is how music will evolve more quickly.
This language of iteration and productivity is the language of product design. It's the language of manufacturing applied to art and music.
You know, that's interesting. And especially when you talk about deadlines when it comes to music production and music creation in general, there's a saying that the game is hurry up and wait. So there's constantly this deadline and there's constant revisions. And then once you hit that deadline or hit that revision, then you have to wait months and months and months before you actually get paid. Or at least in my case, when it comes to sync and film and things like that. And with AI, it's I could see there being less tolerance. Instead of giving us 3 days to compose music for some type of placement, we're given the end of the day. So now the expectations have changed due to the fact that technology is more readily available. So if you're a music composer or producer and you're working with a music supervisor and 5 of the people that they're working with is using some type of AI platform and they can get things done quickly. Hey, I have this song idea, make it reggae. Hey, I have this song idea, make it funk. They can easily get to that point quicker than you, who's just using your DAW, Logic, Pro Tools, or whatever. And now you're working through trying to get things right. And, we all have life. We all have our responsibilities. And if we're not able to deliver, then it makes us look bad. It looks like we're unable to actually hit our deadlines. And, that's just another thing I've been thinking about when it comes to technology. It's already fast. We're already expected to do things so rapidly. And now it's going to be even more condensed. So let's see how things go, man. Let's get back into the video.
Through this lens, like the factory worker on the floor, the time a person spends making music has no intrinsic value. Why spend 6 hours making a song that's going to stream for the same amount of value on Spotify when you can make the same song in just 15 minutes or less? That's just a really inefficient return on investment, right?
I know one person who is a songwriter who had a lull in creativity, and after finding Suno, went from maybe making 50 songs a year to making 500 songs a year.
Reducing the amount of time it takes to get to a minimum viable product is all that matters. And I say this because that is the philosophy behind Suno, the company, and how they think about their product.
Speed is obviously good. Ultimately, if you're trying to invent new consumer behaviors, which is what we are trying to do, you need to ship things very, very quickly to get feedback from people. How many experiments can you ship to your users and learn from? That is ultimately the thing that the company will live and die by. So speed is very important.
This mindset is instilled into the product itself. On Suno's website, alongside music, fun, and aesthetics, they list impatience as a core virtue, which I gotta say, doesn't really strike me as a virtue.
First of all,
yeah,
it's not a virtue. Impatience is not a virtue. It actually goes against all of the virtues.
That's virtue ethicist and Platonic scholar Dr. Mariana Noe of the University of Arizona, who I talked to at great length about the deeper philosophical implications of the widespread adoption of generative AI and how these companies are instilling specific values through the use of their technology.
There's 4 big virtues, which are justice, wisdom, moderation, and courage. Points towards which we need to aim if we want to be good human beings. Impatience goes against almost all of them. Not justice, but it goes against courage, it goes against moderation, and it goes against wisdom. If you're an impatient person, there's no way you can be a courageous one. A courageous person is one that assesses the risk and knows when to attack and also when it's just too rash. The same with moderation. Of course, moderation is about like controlling your desires. Sometimes you just have to wait and you have to control your desire to see results, right? And with wisdom, of course, impatience is also about like throwing yourself to something without really knowing what's going on. So it will go against the idea of like making a wise decision. So it's not a virtue. It goes against all virtues. That's important.
When I hear impatience, I think about things like gambling and, assessing risk and not being able to do it accurately because you feel like you're under some type of pressure. And, will there be a point where platforms like Suno or any other generative AI platform in music will make people so impulsive they'll develop something that's similar to gambling addictions except for music? Let's get back into the video.
Impatience for Suno means prioritizing action over inaction, and there is sometimes real value in working quickly and not second-guessing your intuitions. That's why it's exciting to watch Rob Scallon and Andrew Huang do their 1st of October project and write and record an album in a day. They aren't precious with their ideas, and they work fast for some truly special results. I did a similar thing with Ben Levin with our 24-hour album streams, making a couple of albums the same way. However, I think about how depressing it would be to watch the same video where Rob and Andrew simply generate their ideas on Suno. Both them and the audience would be deeply cheated out of something hard to put a finger on. When faced with creative friction, like a deadline, Suno gives you the excuse to be impatient with the process. You don't have to work out your feelings of indecision in that moment. Suno can just do that for you.
So the value of patience is just the moderation of your own motivations almost, no? It's like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to eat that, but it's like, but now it's not the time, which is what makes us different from animals.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is a very core feature of humanity, is our ability to control ourselves and plan for the future.
Delay pleasure. Delay pleasure is what makes us unique.
Yeah, and a big important part of teaching music or musical instruments to young children is just to show this. You get to do this cool thing if you put in hard work and wait for that reward.
Yeah.
Another common answer to the first question about what Suno lets you do differently was it saves me money. And fair. I mean, it is genuinely a cheaper way of getting a final product where you don't have to pay a mix engineer or a producer. Right? Suno's head of creators, Rosie Wynn, argued in a Twitter post that Suno is great for low-income accessibility and people who don't have access to music lessons.
I really wish Suno existed 20 years ago when I was a kid in elementary school, showing strangers songs I wrote with no way to produce them. But I'm really, really happy that it exists today for all of the other kids who might need it.
This feels a bit cynical to me, and I think a lot of other people in that Twitter thread felt similar. Because, of course, there is no material difference between Suno, which requires an internet connection and a computer, to any of the other free resources out there, free digital audio workstations, sample libraries, educational videos on YouTube, etc. You could make the argument that the free time to dedicate towards learning those tools and honing your craft is itself a luxury that people without means don't have. But to me, that's a much stronger argument for a 40-hour work week and a living wage than it is for generative AI. So if you're broke, please just do what everybody in my generation did and crack a copy of FL Studio and get to work.
I don't know about all that, man. Hey, Image Line, my copy of FL Studio is 100% paid. I'm just saying. I have different session musicians that I work with, but there's definitely always the budget limitations. And the other day, I was experimenting with Suno. Guilty. I was experimenting with Suno, and then I came across the thought, like, man, I could get this incredible bass line, and I don't have to pay my bass player. It's a thing to think about. It's a thing to think about, man. Honestly, it's tough to juggle in my mind, honestly, sometimes. So let's go ahead and get back into the video.
The third common answer to this first question was, it's like a co-creator, a musical partner I can bounce ideas off of. People have begun to anthropomorphize Suno to a certain degree, calling it a creative assistant or collaborator or even a co-producer. We've started seeing people say their music was co-produced by Suno.
That co-pilot analogy.
It's
where,
exactly
you've got
right.
this songwriting assistant that's sitting with you and you're workshopping it together.
It's like an assistant when I do a beat and I'm like, yo, how would you take these drums and rearrange it this way. And I'm like, oh, I would have never heard it that way.
This is a line that you'll often hear about the professional usage of this tool, in that it's not going to do the work for you, but it might give you inspiration and ideas that you wouldn't normally think of if you were just working by yourself.
It's like another human giving a human an idea.
This is, of course, what a musical collaborator is, or put it another way, a friend.
For Aristotle, a friend is an important part of living a good life. So in his Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle basically shares his thoughts on how to be a good person and live a good life. And he dedicates 1 book and a half out of the 10 to talk about friends. A friend has to not only be someone who you have fun with and who is like whatever useful, because these are the tiers of friendship that he distinguishes. Someone who's useful to you, like when you get a ride from someone to the airport or whatever. Someone who you have fun with, which is like when you party. But someone who can also, in addition of those two things, also keep you accountable and help you be a better version of yourself. So a friend is someone that has that power to teach you something and at the same time also be taught by you.
I have a lot of great musical collaborators like Sean Crowder, Ben Levin, and Lau Noah. They're very different people and they challenge me in very different ways and bring out different aspects of my musicianship that I would never have if I just made music alone. Sometimes there's even conflict, differences of opinion of where the music should go. But by resolving that conflict, we get some pretty special results, I think. I am a better person because of those musical relationships I work so hard to maintain, both on the bandstand and in real life. Using Suno as a musical friend replacement might feed into some narcissistic tendencies, because you never have to negotiate with it. You just take the ideas that you like and discard the rest. Generative AI gives you an imitation of what it's like to have a musical collaborator, but somebody who does not hold you to high standards, musical or otherwise.
All right, that's a great point. So all my producers out there, especially ones who like sell beats online, and you know, a lot of people, especially out here in Atlanta, like to do cook-ups amongst each other. But either way, sometimes the idea that your co-producer gives you, it's like you may not totally agree with it, but then you're like, okay, let's rock out. Let me see where you're going with this, because I wouldn't have made that decision. But if we're using things like AI, it's just like we're always in the right. Let's go ahead and get back into the video.
In the Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle talks about how flatterers, people that flatter you, are not your friends because they're not giving you correct information about yourself. So they're just lying to you.
Well, what if Bernie Taupin hadn't ever, connected with Elton John and he had the opportunity to just enter his lyrics into Suno or whatever? Like, where would we be?
Now, zooming back a little bit and taking a look at the answers to this first question, we see that nobody answered anything musical, really. All the answers were about saving time, saving money, and replacing friends. In other words, Suno lets you make the same music faster, cheaper, and lonelier. I'm not sure if that's a good thing. The second question I asked was, do you feel like you have a unique voice with your music when you create songs with Suno? Some people said yes, but the majority of responses felt that the music that they made was not particularly unique to them. One possible explanation for this is that commercial generative AI can't really create anything new. It's just remixing old recordings. And so you can't have a unique voice with something that's just a remix of an old recording. Suno has admitted to have been trained on essentially all music files on the internet, what a lawsuit has called copyright infringement on an almost unimaginable scale.
Yeah, we know that there are some copyrighted works in our training data. That's not illegal.
The legal defense for this, at least according to briefs submitted to the U.S. Copyright Office by Silicon Valley venture capital firms, is that using copyrighted content to train AI models is fair use. Now, this smells a bit fishy to me, but I'm not a lawyer, so definitely check out Miss Crystal, aka Top Music Attorney's videos on YouTube. She does great work on this stuff, especially with the ongoing independent musician lawsuit against Suno. But beyond the legal defense, the moral defense of this is that AI is just learning the same way that humans do, taking a look at what came before, detecting patterns in it, and then remixing it into new works. This is quite literally what I've been arguing on this channel for many years now with regards to all of those music plagiarism lawsuits, right? Human artists steal all the time. It's how culture gets made and passed down. So what's the difference when AI does it? right?
It actually functions very similarly to how humans do. I'm absorbing all of the things that I know, all of the music that I heard, all of the culture that I see out there, and I'm finding some way to express it.
Well, one, when you say a model learns like a human, it's like saying a submarine swims like a human, which is meaningless. It's a category error because the scale of theft is so far beyond what a human could possibly do. It's theft on an inhuman scale. Two, human creativity is a process that can and often does challenge the status quo, and it is unclear if generative AI can do the same. This was exemplified in a fantastic question that I borrowed from a call for new aesthetics for the 21st century, which is, if jazz didn't exist, could you prompt Suno to create it? To me, I think the answer is no, because jazz, like any style of music, has a unique musical vocabulary that cannot be found from its influences. In other words, I can't imagine any amalgam of blues recordings and ragtime recordings sounding anything like Sun Ra. You know what I mean? Something pretty massive is missing in that equation there, which is what Ethan Hine talks about in this blog post.
I love 1980s hip hop because there's no way to predict it from projecting trends in 1970s pop. It questions basic assumptions. It's missing elements that you might have thought were necessary, like melodies, and it brings in elements you didn't know you wanted until you heard them, like samples and turntable scratching. Now that 1980s rap exists, it's easy to feed it into an AI as training data and get more 1980s rap, but there's no way that AI could have produced 1980s rap if it was only trained on 1970s pop.
Yes, that's an interesting point. I'm glad that he's presenting some pushback on that, because I have heard different people online make the argument that as similar to a human, we're all influenced by different things, but it's not quite an apples to apples comparison, as he pointed out. This is a thing that I've been thinking about as he made that point. What is this going to do for the learning experience for people? If the market for music and music performance just starts to shrink more and more, the music industry starts to adapt and go more towards this video game style of music consumption, what is that going to say for the 16-year-old person who's picking up the guitar? Will they start to try to learn their chords, get frustrated, and say, you know what, I'm just going to learn, Suno, as opposed to, sitting there and learning Jimi Hendrix and learning all the greats and figuring out how to put things together. I definitely think there are going to be people out there who want to learn things for the sake of mastery, but just the availability of these type of tools, I'm concerned that it will make people complacent, that they won't start to build those calluses on their finger as they start to learn how to play the bass or the guitar. And some people might say, you know what, forget it. I'm losing my patience. We're all addicted to our phones. We keep getting those dopamine hits. And if we don't have delayed gratification, we could just say, let me just instantly get to what I want. Yes, this is the guitar riff that I've been thinking about. This is the bass line that I've been wanting to play. I could just, hum it into my phone, put it in, and then before you know it, I can automatically have it on Instagram. So I definitely think that it's going to make more people do that, but I do still have hope for the younger generation that they'll look at the older documentaries, they'll look at the people in their family, they'll look at the people in their local bands and say, there's something about that experience that I want to learn, and that cannot be gained through generative AI. I want to learn this for the sake of mastery, as opposed to learning it to blow up in the music game or blow up in the music industry. So I definitely see a bigger or more concentrated counterculture being created from generative AI. Bandcamp has already, recently at the time of this recording, mentioned that they're not allowing AI on their platform. So there's hope for you guys who are going to be totally anti-AI, people who want to go out there and support real human created art. So that's definitely a good thing out there for people who want to support that type of music. But I could definitely see the musical landscape as far as mainstream starting to change and shift because of the accessibility to these tools. So, interesting times that we're getting into, guys. Let's go ahead and get back into this video.
I think this is why people feel like they don't have a unique voice with the platform, because it's so heavily weighted to the status quo. Now, the third question I asked was, who are some of your favorite AI musicians who have influenced you? What about them inspires you? Okay, so even though I kind of knew what the answers to this question would be, it still was really bleak reading them, because the vast majority of people, as it turns out,
do not have influences.
I don't have any AI influences. I'm afraid I don't have any. At the moment, nothing. I don't listen to anybody else. I don't know any. I do not listen to AI slop. No influence. I don't know of any. Haven't heard any. No one. I don't know any AI relevant artist. Not applicable. I have no idea, to be honest. At the moment, nothing. I don't have an AI music influence. None. I do not religiously follow anyone. I don't have any AI music influences.
Why can't people who use Suno cite their influences? It's strange, right? Because if you ask the same question to any musician, writer, or artist who didn't use Gen AI, they would be able to go off forever on their influences. I think about, the bass players that inspired me. Jaco Pastorius, Victor Wooten, modern bass players like Tim LaFave's huge influence. I love Evan Marion. I don't know of anybody of any skill level who can't do that, who can't just be like, these guys are awesome, What is going on here? I know some people might say that, generative AI is too new for people to have influences, which on the surface makes sense, but I do have my doubts there. For example, there are people who have been using generative AI in their workflows for many years now, like Holly Herndon. She makes some pretty wild, amazing music, but it seems like the people who use commercial generative AI do not cite Holly Herndon as an influence. There are people who are using Suno, like Timbaland or Zania Monet, for example, but nobody seems to be citing Timbaland, right? It seems like nobody has role models in the space. No musician that they can point to and say, I want to be like that person, which is strange.
So role models are tools that we use to make decisions. So for example, if you want to become a famous musician, say...
I use the example of Victor Wooten maybe too frequently, but yes, Victor Wooten is a great example here.
Instead of making every decision by yourself with the limited information that you have, you can also ask yourself, what would Victor Wooten do?
What would Victor Wooten do? I'm going to get a bracelet with that on it.
Exactly. What would he do? Because what he did took him to the place where I want to get. So what would he do if he were in my position?
Right.
So we use role models to reason our way through life, and for that reason, to make decisions in our day-to-day life that will lead us to the place where we want to go.
Another great point made here in this video. Who are going to be your AI influences? Producers, engineers, musicians. We all have our list of greats that we look up to. And like she just mentioned there, if I find myself stuck in a beat, I'm not quite sure what to do. Sometimes I'm like, okay, let me chop this sample like No ID. Let me chop this sample like Kanye. Let me play this lead like Teddy Riley. And I found myself in those positions before, and I'm sure you have as well. But what is going to happen when we transition into more AI musicians, more AI compositions? Is your favorite lead guitar going to come from user 3900012? Are you going to say that whenever you're at a music event? That's definitely not going to happen. It seems like people aren't really connected with each other. It's like anti-social music creation. Let's get back into the video.
Art movements historically coalesce around influential artists, role models. Jimi Hendrix inspired a generation to pick up the guitar. Sophie inspired a generation to make hyperpop music. This does not seem to be happening here. Why? There is an Aziz Ansari bit from 2010 about him being invited to Kanye West's house after a show. Aziz arrives at the house to find Kanye West alone on a couch, listening to 808s and Heartbreaks, which is Kanye's own album.
I was like, yo, man, are you listening to your own album in your own house, bopping your own head? And he goes, yeah. These beats are dope.
The joke, of course, is that Kanye is being comically narcissistic.
And I go, that'd be like if I had a stand-up album, you came over to my house and I was listening to it going, ha 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 ha, these jokes are dope.
Who listens to their own music like that? Well, the answer to the question, who listens to their own music like that, is people who use Suno. On r/Suno, when the question was posed, who are your favorite artists as listeners, the answers were,
me. That's the point, ain't it? Me. I created new genres. To be honest, my favorite album is the one that I just finished making.
Page after page in r/Suno is people being Kanye West. Reason number one for no AI influences: narcissistic music. Many people now, quite literally, only listen to the music that they themselves have created on the platform Suno, not
other AI music, not non-AI music, but just the music that they themselves are generating.
I know I'm not the only one that just replays their own Suno songs 24/7. I think it's at least 80% of my music intake right now. Yeah, I just listen to my music 90% of the time. If you're not addicted to your own songs, no one else will be.
Listen, I'm very proud of the music that I make. I think it's great. I think you should listen to it. And yet I do not want to listen to it at all.
You guys don't think that's strange? That's a little weird to just be listening to your own stuff nonstop. That just seems kind of odd to me. I don't I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm getting older, but hey, that's y'all. That's y'all generation. But let's get back into the video.
It's very hard for me to listen to, just the same as it's hard for anybody to listen to the sound of their own speaking voice in recorded form. It seems like people who use generative AI aren't encountering the same problem. They genuinely are obsessed with their creations.
It's so true. I mostly listen to my Suno songs now. Ha! This tracks. I mean, we're making the music that we personally like to listen to. Yes, my songs are top tier compared to what's playing in the radio. I definitely listen to my own music most of the time now. Why wouldn't I?
Mikey, to his credit, warns of this effect as a result of hyper-personalization. He genuinely does not want this to happen.
Or imagine you would open an app and it would just stream you endless AI music that is so hyper-tailored to you.
It's just hitting that nerve in your brain. It's like a drug. And this is extremely antisocial. I think that would also be a shame because it misses out on a lot more that's fun.
But the evidence suggests that this narcissistic listening pattern is the pattern that's developing from people who use commercial-grade generative AI.
When everyone can make their own music to his own taste, there are no reasons to listen to other people's music other than to get ideas and prompts for our own music. Welcome to the future of music.
You know, sometimes I take a look at the comments of some of my videos about AI, and I'm surprised at the magnitude of how much some people are using AI for their music creation. Personally, I always looked at it more so as extra spice, extra kick, but some people are just using it from top to bottom to totally compose their music or just getting totally dependent on it. There's people out there who view it as their entire skill set, and it looks like this is what he's touching on here now in this video, man. It's interesting stuff, man. Let's get back into the video.
You ever been in a car where people are singing along to a song where you don't know the lyrics? It can kind of be alienating, right? Like you want to join in, but they have this shared cultural knowledge that you don't, and so you feel left out. It's way more fun to sing along with people when everybody knows the lyrics, especially in contexts where you're singing with strangers, because that's a way of meeting people and engaging with new people that you didn't know before. When the culture that we consume is entirely personalized, however, this is impossible. This is one of the reasons why people have no influences. They never listen to any other music. Reason number 2 for no AI influences: de-skilling.
There's the process of learning that is slow, organic, and it makes you feel good when you finally get it on the other side. There's a certain thing about that you don't get when you just generate the thing and it's just there. Relying on it as a learning tool takes away your onus from the decision-making process. It's taking everything out that you normally do in here and it's putting it out here, so you don't have to do it. As a result, this gets weaker.
You should know this by now, but ChatGPT makes you dumber. It atrophies your brain. It reduces your cognitive capacity because it offloads decision-making skills that your brain normally makes to the machine. Cognitive debt accrues, and your brain stops doing what it used to be able to do just fine. This has led to a frightening process in the workplace called de-skilling. When decisions are offloaded to generative AI, skilled labor turns into unskilled labor. The people who have specialized training are cognitively stripped of that training. And we're starting to see this in the medical field. A recent study found that after only 3 months of using an AI tool designed to help spot precancerous growths during colonoscopies, doctors were significantly worse at finding the growths on their own. They were, in fact, de-skilled. We're probably going to start seeing a similar thing happening in music in the next couple of years, given the ubiquity of generative AI in the field.
I have not been in a session in the last 12 months that AI was not used. AI is being used and is omnipresent in the creative process right now, at least at the highest levels.
That's songwriter and CEO of the Grammys, Harvey Mason Jr., who is a big advocate for musicians getting ahead of the curve and adopting AI into their workflow.
There's not been a session that I've been in that somebody wasn't using AI to come up with a beat, to write some lyrics, to figure out what some different melody versions could look like. to try different styles of production across some chord changes.
My prediction is that this will likely lead to songwriters becoming de-skilled the same way that doctors are. They will rely on the tools much more to make decisions for them in the name of speed or impatience, and their decision-making abilities will become diminished. All of that time spent honing their skills, gone. ChatGPT brain for musicians.
That actually reminds me of a story of a songwriter I was working with. He's literally sitting right next to me in the studio, right? I was playing a beat, literally just looped it over like maybe once, and then he was like, okay, I'm ready. And I looked at him, I was like, you're ready for what? He had wrote an entire song, like he just heard my beat like twice. And the fact that he has such a powerful skill set tells me that's years and years and years of practice. The fact that he was able to execute something so precisely, so skillfully is a culmination of hours, of years of experience, of melody, of songwriting, of interacting with people, of storytelling. And if we're relying on these tools to do this for us, then how does he ever get to that point? How do songwriters ever get to that point if they don't constantly and consistently bump their heads and get frustrated and then maybe call a friend or maybe look up a story, maybe go for a walk, and then eventually the words just start to come to them? You know, if the tool is there, that strong, super strong skill set is never even developed. And that experience that I had in the studio with the songwriter never even happens, man. That's scary to think about. You know, these tools they're more than what meets the eye. We need to understand the social and the interpersonal experiences that come with music creation. It's not just about doing things faster and quicker and hitting these deadlines. It's creating more of a distance, more of an antisocial music making experience. Let's go ahead and get back into the video.
Now, you could make the argument that this could lead to the development of a new craft or a new skill. Much like laptop production became a skill unto itself, prompt engineering might become the new frontier. There could be like new rock stars of prompt engineering who dazzle us with their prompts. Maybe. Call me an old man. Call me an old man. I am 37 now. But I have my doubts on whether or not we will get this. Prompt engineering, in music anyway, goes against a foundational idea of what a craft, a skill, even is.
I'm thinking about the notion of craft, that we talked a little bit about it. But craft means, for Plato and for Aristotle, knowing what the outcome of your work, your production will be. And I just realized that that's 100% what is not happening here. Yeah. So the example that Plato gives us is that a good doctor is the one that both knows how to cure someone and how to kill them. In order to have a craft, you have to know how it, like whatever comes out of it, you have to know how to apply the things, and you have to know the product of it. You don't know what's coming. It's like, I'm going to cure it, I'm going to kill it. I don't know. That is not a craft. It's just randomness. I don't think that the Greeks would appreciate the fact that anyone relates craft to AI prompting, because you never know what the AI is going to get you.
I guess the counter argument for that would be that so much of music and so much of art, great things, are based on happy accidents, you know, like, oh my God, this thing happened and I didn't expect it to. But then the counter to that argument is the great artist knows how to capitalize on that bit of randomness and knows exactly how to take that from that initial spark to the final product. Now, you could argue that the craft is lyric writing, which is an old craft, and sure, I actually think that's fine. You could make that argument. But Mikey believes that the future of music is not based on a person's ability, how well they can do a thing, but rather on their taste, how discerning they are in the consumption of a thing.
Increasingly, taste is the only thing that matters, and skill is going to matter a lot less, because you're going to be able to make a lot of stuff, and the people who are going to be recognized are people who are able to pick from the vast quantity of stuff and use, in the case of music, their ears to say that was good and that was bad. Now, I'm able to describe music and get something out, and increasingly, I'm going to have to use my ears to figure out that was good, that was bad. Increasingly, your fingers are less important and your ears are more important.
Mikey's vision for the future here is that craft, it's not going to be relevant. De-skilling, Not going to be an issue, because in a world with infinite music generated by Suno, taste is going to be the ultimate driving factor of music production. There is a Rick Rubin interview with 60 Minutes that came out in 2023 where Rick famously says that he has no technical ability and knows nothing about music.
I have no technical ability, and I know nothing about music.
You must know something.
Well, I know what I like and what I don't like.
I think this interview had a lot of influence on Mikey, and therefore a lot of influence on the direction of the music industry. Because Mikey imagines a world where we're all Rick Rubins with no technical ability, but a strong personal taste that can direct music.
I think that's actually a perfect analogy. Rick Rubin, can have people actually do all of the stuff for him. I think about this as a continuation of that, where you need even less emphasis on skills and more emphasis on your ears. It gets easier and easier to create, and what that means is that you rely more and more on your ability to say, I like that, I don't like that.
There are a lot of people with great taste, great ideas in their head musically, and without the means to do it. And everybody has tastes in music, even if they don't currently have mastered, production software like Ableton. Everybody has taste, and when you give everybody the ability to do that, everybody likes to do it.
How good taste is cultivated, or what it even means to have good taste, is not even really questioned by Mikey. He just assumes that because there's so much music, there's going to be a lot of good music that gets to the top. This is the second reason why people don't seem to have role models in this world. It's because role models have skills that inspire us. We're inspired by Jimi Hendrix's ability to play the guitar like that. His taste in music is kind of irrelevant. When the craft is irrelevant, on the other hand, so is the idea of the role model. There is no reason to look up to anybody when you can write prompts just as well as anybody else. There is no magic in what anybody else does. You don't get to look at another person and all the beautiful, inspiring greatness that they might have, because there, quite frankly, is no inspiring greatness here. And that's sad, man. I love having role models, and I love being a role model to other people. And I hate that this is the future that Mikey Schulman imagines for young people and for the broader musical culture. And I also hate the fact that the CEO of the Grammys is now parroting Mikey Schulman's line about taste.
To me, if you're making music and you're using your discernment, your taste to decide what the AI should create for you, you're making music.
Being an arbiter of taste is going to be really, really important.
A human with great taste, learning to pull that out of the AI, and that is like a beautiful piece of music. You can say that I had a part in that creation, or you can say that I didn't have a part in that creation.
What do you say?
I almost want to say I don't care what you think.
There's something pretty sinister about musicians nihilistically embracing their own de-skilling. All of that skill that you require, the stuff that your role models and your elders had and passed down from generation to generation, you're throwing out because Mikey Schulman told you to.
And this gets into certain thoughts that I've been having around AI, and that's that we're really looking at things from our own vantage points as of right now, our own perspective at this time and place, this little space and time as of today. We kind of look at it as a cool tool. But if we zoom out and we look at things from a broader perspective, for example, the younger generation who just now is getting into music, what they have available to them is what they're going to start to perceive as normal. So if they can just prompt different musical parts, they might see that as a way to, get their ideas out, as opposed to learning an instrument, and those skills in that one instrument can transition to something else. It can transition to the guitar. It can transition into the bass. It could transition into a love for music engineering. And if we just have all these tools for them up front as they come up, and then as Adam is mentioning here in this video, they're not really having too many influences, or those influences can seem a bit more distant, then where does that really leave us? Where does that leave the next generation of musicians? And where does that leave us as a society in relation to music creation in general? It just seems like things are just going to start to get redefined more and more as the years go on. And what we see as just the normal landscape today is just going to be a far gone thought, and people are going to have to rediscover it later. So, man, interesting stuff to think about. But let's go ahead and get back into the video.
If you look at musicians like Wayne Brady, who can improvise a song off the top of their head, and you just see how incredible that is and how cool of an art form that is. It's like the pinnacle of improv comedy, is these people who can improvise songs that are coherent and funny and rhyme and actually sound like music. That is a great, joyous experience to watch. And you're just like, how? But then when you generate that It's, you get the like the yucks, yuck, but you don't get any of like the wonder of like, dang,
how did that happen?
Humans are smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually an irrelevant question. It's like, I like that piece of music. It was good music. I felt like I enjoyed the process of making that piece of music, and maybe like, does it count that I made that music or not is irrelevant.
That's all you can credit yourself with in the end. If you use it to make your art, I think you just have to say, I'm a really good prompter. Yay me.
I didn't grow up dreaming of prompting. I grew up dreaming of shredding and, you know, all the fun stuff. That was my dream. And I hope that, you know, I hope that people continue to dream of shredding instead of dream of prompting.
All right, guys, so that's a bit of the Adam Neely documentary on AI and Suno. You can find the link in the description, but I want to know your thoughts. What are you thinking about AI and its social and human implications? I think sometimes we overlook that for the sake of convenience, for the sake of instant gratification. Please, let's continue this dialogue. It's very important that we stay informed and that we communicate with each other. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit like and subscribe. My name is Desmond A, and I'll be back with more great videos. Peace. Wait, before you go, make sure you go to DesmondASounds.com where you can get free FL Studio Patcher plugins, free loops, free guides, everything you need to level up your music production. Once again, go to DesmondASounds.com or click the link in the description. Go there now and totally transform your music production.